Okay, let's talk about how to graph a parabola that is in vertex form. So if you look at this parabola, you can see that we have that nice quantity squared that we're used to seeing in our old vertex form, but the x and the y are reversed here. When the x is by itself and the y is being squared, that means the parabola is going to be horizontal. It's going to open either to the left or to the right, not up or down. Now, we're going to get our vertex first. So our vertex is hk, but remember k is always the thing that's grouped with a y, and this number is what's with the y right now. So when I pull it out of parentheses, with any of these conic sections, they always have like y minus k or x minus h when it's in a square. So you have to always change the sign when you pull it out. But the number out here, you don't. So that's going to be 1, 2. So now I'm going to make a t-chart. And my t-chart is going to be centered around the vertex. Now, normally we would pick values for x and plug them in and get y's. But this time my x is by itself, and I don't want to pick a bunch of different x's and have to solve for y every time. So instead of picking numbers around x and plugging them in, I want to pick numbers around y and plug them in. So when I plug in 0 for y, I get -2 squared is 4 times 1/2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. When I plug in 1, let's see, that's going to be -1 squared is 1 plus 1/2 is 1/2 plus 1 is 1.5. When I plug in 3, that's going to be 1 squared. That's going to be 1.5 as well. And I'm pretty sure when I plug in 4, I'm going to get 3, but you can check my work if you'd like. So I've got my t-chart. I'm going to use that, and I left this step out. Haha, make a t-chart. Draw my parabola. Well, this is just not turning out neatly, is it? So I'm going to draw my parabola. And since I'm freehanding, this is not going to be the prettiest graph, but that's okay. So I'm going to plot my points. Let's see, 3, 0, 1.5, 1, 1, 2, 1.5, 3, and then 3, 4. So there you can see my parabola opens to the right. Again, it's horizontal, and the A is positive, so it's going to open in the positive direction. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that parabola out. Now, because in this chapter we learned the definition of a parabola and how that's based on the focus and the directrix, on these graphs, I'm going to expect you to put the focus and the directrix on the graph. So in order to be able to do that, I need to be able to find the focal length. So the focal length, in that derivation process that we went through, you should have seen that A is 1/4 times P. Now, if I were to solve this for P instead, if I multiply both sides by 4P and then divided by 4A, P is 1/4A, A is 1/4P, whichever way you arrange it, it's one of those is 1/4 times the other. So when I want the focal length, I've got this, which is A. So if I take that and say, I want my focal length, it's 1/4 times 1/2. Now keep in mind, it's not 1/4 times A, it's 1/4 times A. So here, 4 times 1/2 is 2, so my focal length is 1/2. So when I go to plot my focus and my directrix, my focus is going to be inside the parabola on the axis of symmetry, a focal length away from my vertex. So it's going to be 1/2 away from my vertex. And my directrix is going to be the opposite way, and it's going to be perpendicular to my axis of symmetry, the focal length away from the vertex. So here, my vertex is 1, 2, and I moved over to the right from that 1/2 to get to my focus. So my focus is now 1.5, 2. And my directrix, I moved to the left 1/2, and I was at an x value of 1 to start with. So this is going to be x equals 1/2. So what I want on your graph is the parabola with its vertex properly drawn, and the focus and the directrix.